the bottom beside me in the commentary box with Tyler Maxson down behind the cameras for tonight's 20-lap presentation. So we swing on over to Montreal, arguably one of the most famous racetracks you can find in all of Canada. Of course, has been a regular host of the Canadian Grand Prix for decades now. Here today, though, it's not the Formula 1 cars getting set to dice it around here. It is, of course, these lightweight Indy Pro 2000s, and that means with 20 laps racing ahead of us, Lorenzo, we should be in for a thrilling show.
We should be in for a thrilling show right here, Nolan, but it's going to be interesting because we covered this race last season. So we could see some familiar faces getting some really good results from here, some new faces coming along into the show. So the big thing right here is keeping out of the wall, because keeping out of the wall, that means life in the first place.
Oh, absolutely. You got to make sure that you keep these things out of the barriers. That is going to be oh so crucial today, especially with that wall of champions in the final chicane over at turns 13 and 14 down the Droit du Casino straight. It is such a critical set of corners to get right, and it really is a road course that takes the philosophy of you cannot get enough chicanes, right? Yeah, technically turns 1 and 2, but some might argue that's more of a switchback. Turns 3 and 4, absolutely. 6 and 7, 8 and 9, and then of course turns 13 and 14 to end out the lap. It's also got one of the slowest corners you'll see on the Formula 1 calendar and here in the Indy Pro calendar as well, down at turn 10, right out through Le Pingo. That is of course a 180-degree hairpin where you're going to be turning these wheels almost full lock over to the right.
Yeah, so we probably see here John Bodywork going beta for, I got the name right, I got it wrong the first time, I got it right on the second time, going to turns 3 and 4. 3 and 4 is a little bit tricky because depending on the cars, you cannot touch the curbings on the very inside part of the turn, especially the second leg, which is a little bit tricky. Now turning to turn number 6, you can go a little bit deeper into the curbing outside of 7, right outside of turn number 8. And the tricky thing about turn number 8 right there, Nolan, if you go way too deep into the red AstroTurf, there's a little bit of a dip which can offset your car pretty much hard and basically invalidate your lap.
You see pushing out towards that inside, the right side wall, using every inch of the track as you can. You can see almost no runoff area. Of course, you got quite a bit to work with here at turn 10. Watch that wheel turn almost well over 90 degrees over to the right-hand side as you get set to dice it up for the longest straight on the track. This is going to be one of the better passing zones on the track, but I'd argue not the best one because of the chicane that follows it. The best passing opportunity could be down into turn number 1. Medema currently sets the provisional pole time, 3/4 of a second clear of Ebbs. Of course, Koholich going to be looking to potentially run that time down. Here comes Bodywork coming across the line, out through turn 14. And across start finish, what will the time be for Bodywork? Can he topple Medema from the top of the timing boards? The answer is he can. A 131.221, season 4/10 clear of Medema. A lot of work to be done is already over a second separate first from third.
Yeah, because it is not the easiest lap around the Canadian track. The thing is, there are so many places, and this is a layout that it's very unconventional for open wheelers, especially the infamous turtle curbs or the sausage curbs on the last chicane that leads into the wall of champions. They're not made for open wheels like that, neither GT cars. They were made for NASCARs. You're gonna see it right there. Oh, those wide sausage curbs, because this track was laser scanned during the Xfinity season. Well, it wasn't the Xfinity event, it was another name. I think it was Nationwide when they came to Canada in 2011.
That was, of course, the Nationwide series that came over here. Well, back then it was called the Nationwide, now called the Xfinity series back in 2011 when they still raced here. Of course, it makes a bit of an interesting track, isn't it, having to use these large curbings that you have to work with. And in these light open wheel cars, it's so easy to get unsettled through those. You can kind of take a bit more speed through them, but it was definitely something to watch out for throughout the course of tonight's race. So Medema worked his way up and actually put in a time that was good enough to put himself within 2/10 of Bodywork, but it was not enough to potentially get the provisional pole away. That could come down here to the number 3 driver, who we can currently see rounding around the racetrack at the moment. But of course, it's not going to be an easy run for the number 3 driver, Jeremy Rogers, because at the moment he is not sitting all too good in the qualifying order, is he? I mean, he is sitting quite a bit of a further ways back. I think definitely has some room for improvement. Could look to improve that place and maybe work his way up into the top 5.
Yeah, especially given the fact that I think on his first lap he missed some of the apexes, especially the final apex, because if you get the final apex within the final chicane right, especially the launch into the second leg, you can kind of save or basically trim, right, I would say 0.3 of a second to 0.4 of a second how clear you are, but you can see him missing it again.
That time a lockup though into the final chicane, saw him run wide, just brake too late, and there was a right front lockup that sent Rogers wide. That'll invalidate his lap. He will not improve. You're right on board with Casper David Alberg Nielsen, who currently runs around the number 18 machine, one of the last drivers at a qualifying time, and he is currently on his first qualifying lap, trying to see if he can maybe put down a second lap time on the boards, but of course, he still has to get that first one done first. I don't think he's going to have enough time to put down a second one.
No, he's not. He's going to basically open up that lap with around 125 remaining, and he completely botches the final corner. So it's going to be less than 125. It's going to be right about 122, 121.
And some boards riding Moreland, you saw lock it up into the final chicane as well, and he also bottled the final chicane and not going to be setting a qualifying time this time around. Has to scramble if he wants to get a time down. I don't think it's going to be happening though, so it looks like we'll have 4 drivers here that will not be able to go out there and set a lap time, which will make it 18 drivers that will set qualifying laps. And interestingly enough, it's a very wide spread amongst them, right? I mean, you've got John Botifer with a 130.899, half a second clear of Embedema, definitely the driver to beat tonight. And from there, it is over 10 seconds back to the slowest driver, Robert Lapointe. But of course, Lapointe is about 4 seconds off of Holstein as well. So if you really wanted to be more specific, it's about 6 or 7 seconds back to the next up to pace driver.
It's going to be basically, those who are not acquainted with this track, it's going to be a tricky one to drive. I did do some laps in the IR18 on a league race with this car, and let me tell you, with the IR18, it's not a friendly car to go around the curbs because it is high power, it has a lot of downforce. Maybe with the last power that you get in the Indy Pro 2000s, you can kind of navigate through the curbs, and you still have to be very smooth, but getting a lap time over here and be consistent in it is going to be really hard as qualifying is over.
With qualifying now at a close, let's take a look at the official starting grid for round 10 here at the circuit. Jean Villeneuve for round number 10 of the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. It is going to be John Botifer up on pole position with Embedema half a second back to line it up beside him on the front row. Connor Melia starts third with Preston down in fourth. It's Michael Koholich down in fifth place with Christopher Ebbs Lorenzo down in sixth.
Yeah, seventh place we'll get that in 1 second for row number 4. Jeremy Rogers starts row number 4 with Alex Sevillano Ledo. Then top 10 rounds out with Sebastian Kinder, Michael Woods, and then the 6th row off the grid is Michael Carpenter and Alexander Fuller.
It is Benny Fage to line it up in 13th place with Earl Setzer down in 14th. How about James Watson in 15th place with Casper David Albert Nielsen down in 16th place. Xavier Dowdell is in 17th with Shane Holstein in 18th.
And then 19, Robert Lapointe is 19th with Todd Hansen 20th. David Rowley 20th first, and the last car in the grid, Rowdy Moreland, ran out our 22-car grid here, Nolan.
22 cars, and every single one of them is gridded up and ready to go. It's a short pace lap here, just down this long straightaway before we go through turns 13 and 14 to kick this race off. So as we get set to get this 20 laps underway, what do you think we can expect for the opening laps here, Lorenzo?
It'll be an interesting one because maybe the key turns are going to be turn number 4 and the lead up into the hairpin, because that hairpin is so easy for you to lock up the wheels, especially with the cold tires. After that, it's basically like cruise and try to find yourself on the track.
First, we want to thank everybody for taking the time to come on out and join us on a beautiful Friday evening for more racing action for the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. John Botifer and Embedema lining it up on the front row. Getting set to get these 20 laps underway out of turn 14. And it's a launch from Botifer. We are underway here from Canada. And it's a good launch with the number 1 car. Embedema already clear for second as well. So it's a drag race between Preston on the grass with Melly down in third place. Oh, almost caught him in third place already. Down to the turn number 1. The 7 car getting muscled out wide. Preston falls back to fourth as a result of that one. Koholich holds on in fifth, leading from Ebbs down in 6th place. clean out of the first couple of corners, though, down from turns 1 and 2. So far, neither driver getting spun around through turns 3 and 4. Single file out to the first of these chicanes before we dive it in for turn 5 and a very sweeping turn 6. Hard on the brakes for 7 and 8. One huge lockdown from Michael College almost sends into the back of Chris Preston, but so far, we are still clean with no casualties so far in this race.
No casualties so far. I did see a little bit of a run wide from Jeremy Rogers into the turn number 5 and 6, but everybody got away unscathed, so that's good to see. And now we're going to the hardest braking zone of the track, into the hairpin, and now things can get dangerous depending how late you brake it.
Down in the turn number 10 is going to be so crucial. Huge lockup from Connor Melia out from 3rd place. You just talked about wanting to get it right. He's able to carry the momentum from that lock on the outside line, but he's lost a spot to Chris Preston as a result. We'll have to see if he can take 3rd place back down to the turn 13. Botifer has already put us such a significant gap. He and Demo are clear by a mile. And here is Preston going on the defensive. Melia's going to have to fight this one the long way around. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers. Who's going to back out in the chicane? Melia locks up again, and he's wide through the chicane. Has to come back on. Watch the rejoin, gets it done safely. Preston going to hold on to 3rd for now. Heads up, Michael College trying to get the run up for 3rd place now. This will be around the outside of turn number 1. Did it goes wide the last time. College sideways, trying to hang on to it. The TNUX machine, and the Alpine Star Units driver sends it wide through turn 2, and he also rejoins. Meanwhile, further in the back, there's been more calamities. Looks like one car might find themselves out of the race early on. I think it might have been Kinder that sent himself around.
Yeah, that was insane from College going to turn number 1. He did go for a little bit of a risky move, trying to go wide into turn number 1, then kind of going to a tighter line on 2 and seal the deal. Unfortunately, the braking just didn't help whatsoever. The driver from the Alpine Star, Geodesic, and I thought he was actually going to rejoin the track at the exit of turn number 2, but he did the right move and basically rejoined at the exit of the turn number 2, where it's basically safer for everybody to actually have a better run.
They saw Connor Melia have a look at the inside of Jeremy Rogers, trying to take back 6th place. This spot was just diced up this lap, and now Jeremy Rogers trying to fend off Melia. This will be in the battle for 6th place. Another lockup, though, for the 5 car. He is struggling so much to get that thing dialed in. I have a feeling at this point, he's got that brake bias a little bit too far forward. Might have to back it up by a couple of notches in order to stop these front-end lockups, because it is just killing the number 5 car in his momentum at the moment, trying to hang on to against Ali Seviano Leto just in behind them for 8th place. And so far, will he have another lockup into turn 13? It doesn't look like he will. This time, gets it sorted to try to get the run on Jeremy Rogers down this front straightaway as he gets set to round out lap number 2. Closing, but not close enough to have a look into turn 1.
Close enough for him to have a look in it. Despite the number 3 running a little bit wide in the transition from turn number 1 to 2, but managed to keep Melia at bay right there. But the thing that we have to talk about in this race is the gap that Beta 4 has already opened up to Medema. Is nearly a full 2 seconds, despite Medema trying to fight back.
Todd Hansen has been bringing his car down to pit road, and looks like it has been a huge shunt, potentially a turn 14 for the number 11 car a few moments ago. Hopefully we can maybe get a look at that later on throughout this race, but for now, John Betafer leads the way from Ambedema from Chris Preston, and the top 2 clear by a long shot. Taking a look now at the race spot replay. This is what happened to Hansen here. Looks like the 18, I think, that has got loose, and Hansen just spun the throttle up. That's a huge shot to the inside wall that sends Todd Hansen around, and with big damage, Hansen becomes the first retirement of this race.
Yeah, and probably we try to avoid using the jet and netco word right here, but it does look like there's a little bit of netco during a possible contact whenever the driver in front of him got really loose, but we cannot be so sure from that angle. Back to the track though, Jeremy Rogers in the Total Downforce Racing team trying to catch up to Abs right in front of him, but the number 10 driver in the Jordan livery doing a really good job keeping Rogers at bay.
And Jeremy Rogers now trying to keep Connor Melia behind him. Melia's just not been able to close up enough down into these corners here, and it's been a bad run for them over Connor Melia. Look at how much he can close up for corner entry through the middle of the corners, but for some reason, it just can't bring out the top-end speed to be able to properly execute a pass on it through the draft. I have a feeling that maybe Jeremy Rogers could be set up a little bit more for the straightaways at the other end of the racetrack, while Connor Melia set up more for the corners, but bottling turn 4 a little bit for Melia, that's not going to help him at all in his run to potentially try to reel in Jeremy Rogers for a top 5 finish.
Yeah, but then again, I think the hardest thing about this track, like I said, is being consistent and fast in it. Like, you can be really consistent, but how consistent you are is the key, because there are so many avenues you can explore in this track. And depending on the avenues you take, you can make the smallest mistakes, especially during those transitions in the chicanes, right? Where you basically put your foot on the throttle down a little bit too early than usual, and the car just decides to spin around and maybe hit the barrier. Like I said, avoid the barriers. Not hitting the barriers is life around this track.
And so far, Rogers remains stuck in a little bit of a no man's land in the moment, trying to close up Christopher Ebbs, also trying to keep Connor behind him. Much closer that time by on entry to turn 13, but out of 14, Jeremy Rogers bottles the exit, so Christopher Ebbs will be able to pull away down the front straightaway. Melia still looking to close the gap, but it's not going to happen this time by behind, though. Potential for 7th place. Take a look at the gaps closing up between 7th and 8th at the moment, and there could be a potential pass further to the back. You see that battle going on just at the bottom end of the screen. College trying to move, I think, into turn 1, but Leto was just too fast for him, pulled away around the outside of turn 2.
Yeah, plus I think with these lower power cars, it does become a little bit of like F3. You're gonna have to rely on the other driver to make a mistake, like Leto just did all the transition from turn number 3 to 4, and you close down the gap, and you probably would need a larger stretch of a straight for you to capitalize on the movement. Leto, that was a little bit complicated, just nudging the wall into the tire, into the barrier. Might have lost a tenth of a second or two right here, but still not enough for Michael Kohlich to catch up and make the overtake.
Probably could have had it out through turn 8 that time by, decided not to go for it. Here he's going to go for it, though. Has a good run up to turn number 10. Haven't seen a pass executed into the hairpin yet. We're going to see one here, though. Kohlich up the inside, and Leto can't defend. Potentially going for a crossover. Almost taking out the rear wing of the number 4, but that battle going to sort itself out now. It's going to be a drafting battle now down this very long straightaway. Can Leto get the hammer down to have a look back underneath Kohlich? If not in turn 14, maybe up for turn number 1. Looking to back out, not going to risk it going side by side into the final chicane. So close on the brakes, though, and has to back out, vaulting over the curves. That's not a pretty sight for the undercarriage of the number 6 car, and that'll have that battle be absolutely sorted right there.
Oh, one thing I can definitely say, he got crunched by the sausage curve. If I have to make any analogies with his helmet, that turtle curve is just showing his fangs towards Leto right there. That is unfortunate, but is how hard you're trying to race the other individual. If I'm me, I would try to take the advantage that Kohlich maybe is faster than Melia, Rogers, and Ebbs, and try to fall as closely as I can to catch up to the 3-car train that is battling right now for positions.
And you still got this battle between 4th, 5th, and 6th raging on here. You got Christopher Ebbs still leading from Rogers, from Melia deeper down, racing for spots just in and around the cusp of the top 10. It's been an interesting run so far, and looks like the 17 car of Benny Fage has had a bit of a spin of the number 17 machine, and he'll bring that one down to pit road. That, I think, was on the exit of turn 6. Might have been 8, though.
Yeah, I think that was on the exit. I think that was on the exit of turn number 8. Let's see.
Oh, hello.
Okay.
So Fage goes into the wall, got caught out by one of the drivers that spun around up ahead of him. I'm not sure who the other driver was that spun around with him, but that's a complicated situation, right? I mean, you kind of come up and you're kind of stuck in a bit of a no man's land there, right? When you have to try to choose which way you want to go, left or right, to get around the wreck. And I think he just kind of overreacted there a little bit and ended up spinning himself out in the process. Here's another battle going on further down the order. This is for 10th, 11th, and 12th. 11th and 12th did swap this last time by, so Carpenter falls back as Woods pushes his way up into 11th place, looking to make a move on James Watson here. 4 spot inside the top 10, around the outside of turn number 1. Woods is deeper on the brakes, and he's got that pass done through 2. Great overtake.
Great overtake, and then basically textbook, but the problem is Watson just went way too wide on turn number 2. That brings a little bit, I think, Carpenter right on his back wing, nearly made contact. So Watson might lose another position if he's not fast enough. The driver from Ohio right here and trying to get a good result. I think the best result of the season was the gateway race for the number 10, for the number 8 here on the split. So unfortunately not being able to put that pace that he probably wants to have.
So Woods, the Englishman, will lead the way from the American just in behind. James Watson trying to close in the gap down to Michael Woods just up the road. James Watson still looking to potentially have a bit of a run in behind. He's also got Michael Carpenter just waiting around in the wings, hoping maybe he can potentially capitalize on this battle if it comes to blows up in front. But I think Michael Woods at the moment is looking to set to be able to run away with a 9th place at the moment, as James Watson is already, you can see, losing time.
Now I'm curious, if Tyler Maxson could actually grab a shot from the side pod, is that an homage to you, Nolan Rempel? Because it says NRN. Does that mean it's the Nolan Rempel network?
I can neither confirm nor deny. I wouldn't necessarily. I know it'd be the first I've heard of it.
The things we pull up in sim racing sometimes. I'm just messing with you, Nolan.
I got Michael Carpenter still looking to close him in on, though. You kind of have me rooting for James Watson down the middle of this battle for the final spot inside the top 10. So Watson will continue to try to fend off Michael Carpenter just behind as the time goes on. It'll be a 2-horse race at the moment with Michael Woods still pulling away big time further out in front. And also got that battle for 5th and 4th that just traded hands. Looks like Jeremy Rogers managed to make up the pass. You saw the spots flip over a little bit over on the left-hand side, just on the timing tower. So Christopher Ebbs looks like he might have used up all the speed to that number 5.
Yeah, but I think more importantly, something happened to Rogers and Ebbs. I don't think that was a friendly overtake, because not only Ebbs lost time, but Melia lost some time as well, and that kind of brings as an effect Kohalich into this game as well. So you can see now 4-car train of sorts forming up in the Droid Tour Casino, heading into the World Champions, and now Rogers needs to do his best to fend away as quickly as he can from Ebbs and the rest.
You got to scurry. You cannot afford to just wait around. Got to take the ball and run with it. So deeper on the brakes. Ebbs runs wide through turn 1. That puts him off line for 2. Here comes the Alpine Stars geodesic racer Michael Kohalich, who ran wide through turn 1 in the early stages of this race. He has been trying to regain a lost time ever since then, and has now caught up to your battles for 6th, 5th, and 4th. This could get spicier between these drivers as we try to see who could win out of this battle. Another lockup from Connor Melia. So Melia is still struggling with this front-end braking issues.
It's still struggling a little bit, but I don't think it will be a major time loss. Still within the back wing of Ebbs right there, so it might be a slight lockup, which will not affect time, but it might affect the tires a little bit. Might overheat them by a few degrees of temperature.
Down for turn 10. Does any driver fancy a look? Melia thought about it. Oh, that scares Christopher Ebbs out wide. So Melia's going to get alongside of the exit of turn number 10. As they start to thunder down the casino straight, though, Melia was not able to capitalize on that one. Has to tuck back in line, but it's going to be so much closer with the draft. Could fancy a look here down the casino straight into turn 13. Gonna make that look over to the right-hand side. This didn't work well the last time Melia tried it. Had to lock up. Deeper on the brakes. That might be too deep. Just gets that thing stopped in time. Christopher Ebbs tucks in line, and that could open up the door for Kohalich to make his way up the inside line. Of course, you had Christopher Ebbs was a little bit unsettled just behind him, and now Kohalich up the inside of the number 10, and Christopher Ebbs will lose 2 spots at once straight away, and backs off to allow Michael Kohalich to get the run through turn 2.
And finally, Kohalich makes a move on turn number 1 that doesn't prevent him, or doesn't make him lock up on the outside. I think Watson had an issue on the World Champions, apparently. Lost position to Carpenter before the turn, and something happened afterwards, maybe to drop some time.
Taking a look back here on this one, this is James Watson trying to fend off Michael Carpenter into the wall, into the chicane. Oh, just overshoots and has to run wide, takes that slowdown penalty. Almost got beached on that sausage curve that kind of takes it back over onto the racetrack. That would have been bad news, because that would have sent it straight into the wall. How about Melia? Oh, no! Trouble on traffic! Hands up behind! Somehow they scramble, they avoid him. That was Shane Holstein of the number 21 car. The driver at 18th place, already a lap down. Just a messy situation all around. Holstein had overshot, went left or right. It was contact between Kohalich and Holstein that sent Shane Holstein around, and somehow Christopher Ebbs managed to hang on to that one.
somehow, some way, that 9 out of 10 times that would have blown up both tires, but unfortunately just blew up Shane's right there, as now College goes for the move in deep.
Oh, heads up! Oh, that traffic, look out! Robert LaPointe almost running over, and that causes Jeremy Rogers to get all sorts of cross stuff. Jeremy Rogers under fire as College makes his way up another spot. A drag race down to turn number 1. The lap traffic woes continue. Problems of having a one-split race, trying to get all the slower guys mixing with the faster guys. It's still a dead heat out of turn number 2. College could have gotten the run. We got all sorts of squirting through the apex or 2, so that allows Jeremy Rogers to capitalize. He'll put himself up back now into 4th place, down for turn number 3.
Slight shades of Riley Thompson versus Graham Sanders right here. Total Downforce Racing versus Alpine Star Geodesic Racing right here. So really good battle, despite Rogers getting fended off by the number 20. Nearly grazed the wall, looks like a little bit on the exit of turn number 7, going into turn number 8, but still managing to retain the slight lead that he has on the Geodesic driver.
Maybe not for long, though. Koholich is looking to close that gap. Does he fancy it into turn 10? Does he opt to go for it down the casino straight? Looking for the inside, sends it down the inside at turn number 10, and it's no question this time around. Jeremy Rogers will have to back out, I'd imagine, lose that position, but actually tries to carry the momentum around. He's going to be side by side, and this time, Koholich does not have the draft run to help him out here, so this is going to be a dead heat between these drivers, all dependent on setup. And it looks like Koholich has just got a bit more top-end speed, and that Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing machine, Rogers backs off a little bit to make sure he doesn't overshoot turn 13. Not going to be able to catch up to Koholich out of the front straightaway. Got a bad run. You could tell it right from the get-go. He was not going to be able to fight it back into turn number 1. I think finally that Ford car is going to be clear to run away with 4th place.
Yeah, maybe, but we can still see Rogers trying to fight back this one right here, depending on circumstances. Of course, normally College is being the faster driver with a better car in comparison to all 3 of them. But clearing himself away would have been how he takes the 2nd sector in comparison to the 3rd one, because the 3rd one you can easily gain up ground just by being able to draft off someone.
You talk about a tense situation, right? First, you had Shane Holstein kind of getting in the way. He overshot this next chicane they're coming up to now, and as a result, they had to split him, going 3 wide around him, and that caused him to make contact with Koholich, as a matter of fact, and spin Holstein around. He ended up getting the damage suspension, had to go to the pits. A little further back up the road, then you had Robert LaPointe pulled offline out of the turn 14, just wanted to get out of the way. It checked up Raj, though, because of that, it checked up Koholich as well, and we nearly saw all 4 of these drivers getting collected in the massive accident as a result. It's almost one of those cases where, the lap traffic tries so hard just to get out of the way and, acknowledge the blue flag, so they end up making themselves a hazard while doing so.
Yeah, I normally say the number 1 rule of basically racing, of course, number 1 rule in general is don't hit your teammate, right? But the number 1 whenever you are in multi-class racing, or you're a back marker, or you're fighting in traffic, if you're the slower car, make it predictable for the guy to overtake you. Of course, you have maybe to throw to the offside part of the road or the dirtier part, as Melia fully offshoots the corner.
Connor Melia vaulting over the turn 1 curves, got all sorts of sideways, had to lock it up to keep it out of the wall in turn number 2, and you were going off track, but managed to do so nicely as the 5 car maintains the position, doesn't even lose one back to Christopher Ebbs just behind him. And I think now things are kind of in the more natural order of things, right? We're starting to see these battles start to split apart ever so much. And this is what we're used to seeing, right? It's going to be all sorts of intense as you get these spots that switch around to the first 2 laps or so. And as the long run setups start to kick in, they're going to slowly pick their way through and run away with their own respective positions. Rogers has been pulling away from Melia. Melia's been pulling away from Christopher Ebbs. And of course, Koholich has been pulling away from all 3 of them over the last few laps.
Yeah, it's that natural thing, I think, in terms of setup versus tire wear versus how the car is feeling at the moment. So I think Koholich is on a much better condition right now than all 3 other drivers. Even though this isn't a very high consuming track in terms of tire wear, you can, unless you block it up every single corner of the track, which can basically kill your tire life. Other than that, it's not a track that consumes a lot of tire wear, that kills the tire itself. You can basically drive a full stint of steam at still be within a relatively, I think, 90% of the tires on how well you drive it.
There are, of course, battles going on all throughout the field at the moment. You saw 13 and 14 switch just a little while ago. 11th and 12th has also been steadily closing on up as well. Sebastian Kinder and James Watson, they've been looking to potentially do battle for the last little while. Looks like Watts has just been more steady. And as I say, Kinder overshoots the final chicane, so that battle is going to get split apart at the moment. So, you get these things starting to die on out at the moment, and we can have a bit of time to, kind of settle things down, take a little bit of a breather, right? I mean, you don't often get those chances to just sit back, take a nice little relaxing breath, and just observe the cars flying around the racetrack. It is nice though that you get these races where it's not necessarily so high octane and high intensity from start to finish. Yes, that is fun, but at the same time, it puts these drivers in a stressful situation, right? And it makes it so it's a lot more likely these battles are going to end in messy fashions, and that doesn't make them as fun to watch at that point, right? Because we want to see battles, yes, but we also want to see a battle end in a clean manner. You can't necessarily do that if you're in such an intense situation throughout the entirety of this run, because if you do, well, unfortunately, you could be having yourself a bit of a smashing end to your race.
Yeah, because I think this track normally, has a very, very interesting nature of sorts, in my opinion, because let's just say this is not a difficult track to race, right, Nolan? You can pretty much be very consistent and fast with this track, but the problem is, I think on its current layout for cars like this, and I'm not saying it's the track's fault or something like that, but just how it is driven, makes it a little bit more atrocious than normally it is supposed to run. But of course, I'm talking about open wheels. It gets even worse multi-class, because multi-class it is just a scramble for disaster depending how you see it. But then again, that's why I prefer open wheels sometimes in multi-class racing in tracks like this.
Saw 14th and 15th place trade hands just a while ago through turns 13 and 14th. Earl Setzer trying to keep Alexander Fuller behind him at the time being. Setzer made his way up into 14th place, kind of in the midfield as we get set to hit 5 to go this next time by for your race leaders. John Badefer now 9.4 seconds clear of Amadema, just in behind. And there's not a lot of drivers that are necessarily close to each other at the moment. But you look all up and down throughout the field, and it hasn't necessarily been, a close race. When you look up and down middle, a lot of these drivers are now 1 second gas over each other. Likewise with the battle we're seeing at the moment with Connor Melia still trying to run down Rogers, but is 1.2 seconds behind him as a result. I'd say the closest battle for position is between James Watson at the moment and Sebastian Kinder. That battle is currently under about 0.6 of a second at the moment, and it did also trade hands this last lap through. So you have all these little battles starting to pick on up, and you never know when something could kick off, especially further down the order. So we watch Connor Melia continue to race his way around the racetrack in his number 5 machine. He's had a solid run so far throughout the course of the day. And here is John Badefer, a driver who has had so much speed over the course of the day. And he's had so much speed over the course of the season, consistently, week in, week out. He is the driver who is the benchmark to beat.
Yeah, he's the benchmark. He's basically what Greg Sykes was last season, right? No, we covered that, I think, quite a lot. I think Sykes won out of the 12 races in the season. He won 9 or 8 of them, if I recall correctly. It was close. It was that much. I know this much. Badefer is close to that mark this season.
He certainly is. He just needs to get a few more, and he'll definitely be setting a smashing record so far. Wins he can get in one season, for the Indy Pro 2000 Championship. It's been such a good run for himself so far. So we'll have to wait and see how this could, develop on up for him. It's been an interesting run so far for him, and I have a feeling this could end up being a bit of an interesting run as this race goes along. I was seeing yellow flags for a moment being flown over turn 3. I think Casper David Albert Nielsen might have had small off, but he has rejoined on the track since then, which is obviously good news for him. But a lot of damage on his number 18 machine. He might have to pull that one down to get it fixed with just 4 to go.
I'm seeing on the tower that Shane Holstein is now on the pit lane, so something old beta. Oh my god. All right, Nolan, we need to do a job of containing ourselves so we don't jinx the drivers. especially me, I'm the king of jinx here at RaceSpot. So, but I think I saw Shane for a quick second being back to the pit lane, so something might have happened to Shane Holstein.
Shane Holstein was the driver that ended up getting spun around by Koholich in the big battle with the lead lap cars out of turn number 4. Actually, this is a second trip down the pit road. You're actually right. Oh, that's a huge slide. That's a very unusual incident, just stepping it out around turn 5. I don't think I've ever seen that before, at least not in these cars. That's a very unusual crash to have.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in open wheels, period. That is really weird.
Kinder has been put under fire by James Watson for the past several laps now, and there have been a couple of looks as well. This is one of the closer battles he's got throughout the course of the field, and look at Kinder trying to keep Watson behind. I thought with how much it was Kinder looking to pressure Watson a little while ago that he'd just be able to run away. That has not been the case. James Watson has been all over the gearbox of the number 12 car. He is looking to get that door open. If not turn 10, he might have a look up into turn 13.
Absolutely, but I think he wants to do it in turn number 10. But Kinder, with some late braking, still manages to make it into the corner. So Watson is going to have to do the whole run into the Droid du Casino and try to make the overtake right before the chicane leading to the Wall of Champions.
Closing up with the draft. Kinder's not looking to weave across to break that draft. And how about that? James Watson opted to back out a little bit of the number 8 car. I think trying to set him up for turn 1. A pass that late up into the chicane. The final chicane would just be way too risky, I think, to be able to properly risk it. So 3 laps to go in this battle for 11th place. James Watson looks to continue to close in that gap as Kinder piles on the mistakes.
Yeah, Kinder piles on the mistakes. Watson running a little bit wide into the entry of turn number 2. But I think the battle we should be watching right here, and I'm not saying this is a good battle, but the battle I think that matters most is the top 5 battle, because now Melia applying immense amounts of pressure on Jeremy Rogers, and the gap was about 0.2 of a second at one point.
So many battles starting to pick on up all throughout the grid. You've got 5th and 6th. You've also got 11th and 12th still looking to pick on up. And I have a feeling you're right. I mean, Jeremy Rogers has been losing a lot of time back to Connor Melia, so this could be an interesting battle here. So we'll take a look on how this could develop. We got this battle between 11th and 12th to pick it up. But here is the one for 5th and 6th. 2 laps remaining, and Connor Melia applying the pressure. Rogers misses the turn 2 entry. That gives a huge run of steam back to Connor Melia, who almost opened up the door for 2.
And nearly opened the door over there for Melia to make the overtake with the botch of turn number 1 heading to turn number 2 from Rogers right there. So the TDR driver is struggling quite a lot with these final laps, and Melia could have a shot to get a good top 5 over here, given the facts that he started a little bit back in the field, but managed to clog the spots back. And I think top 5 would kind of match probably his best result of the season so far.
Melia looking to get a top 5 finish, still applying the pressure. Bit of a shallower exit that time by out of turn number 8, trying to see if he can potentially close up to Jeremy Rogers and overtake him for a top 5 finish. Jeremy Rogers missing the turns and apex. Will this open up the door? Final lap coming around, this time by here from Montreal.
And Joan Bader for, again, leading up with a 12-second gap. I think that is even more dominant than what I think was Sides when he won the race here last time by. But the Alpine Star geodesic driver having a tremendous run, and I think Melia here might have the better run heading to turn number 1.
Final time into turn number 1. The door is not open. Connor Melia not able to throw one up the inside, but has a huge run out of turn 1, down for 2. So the potential for Connor Melia to get this spot is still very much alive. He's just got to try to close up just a little bit more for Jeremy Rogers. He's just got to pull out a little bit more speed in that number 3 car to see if he can keep Connor Melia at bay. Down for turn number 6 and out through 7. Still no contest. Connor Melia able to hold in behind Jimmy Rogers, keeping nice and close at this point in time. Unless he can get a huge run up into turn 10, he's going to have to make that look into the final course at turn 13. And he also got a lap trap in front of this view. Oh, Melia locks up, and he's into the gravel. That's going to be a huge end to this battle that was looking to be developing so much. And for John Badeford, he's coming down the casino straight now. He has been in control of this race from start to finish, and Badeford coming around to the final chicane for the final time today. He wins in dominant fashion by 13.7 seconds over Amadema.
What a dominant race for John Badeford right here. Another win for the Alpine Star geodesic driver, as we're looking into Connor Melia trying to catch up to Christopher Epps. He lost that position when he was trying to come back on track, but Epps having nothing to do with that will get the position out of the number 5 driver and go up into P6, and Rogers will finish up this thing in the top 5.
And that really just leaves that battle we were looking at earlier between Sebastian Kinder and James Watson to come across the line. And it's been getting aggressive between these two drivers as well. Watson tried a huge lunge into turn 7, but it wasn't able to get fully up alongside. And I think this means that Sebastian Kinder could potentially close this thing out here in the 11th position. James Watson looking to close, maybe has a little bit more of the draft. Is it going to be enough though? Can he get a better run out of turn 14? Closing out to the race, to the chicane, going down the inside of the chicane. This is going to be a battle of the late breakers. Kinder pulls around, Kinder overshoots, and that's going to be James Watson will come around. He'll take the position as Kinder is forced to serve the slowdown, and James Watson is going to take that battle by forcing Kinder into a mistake.
Yeah, very, very late mistake from Kinder right there. He's not going to be satisfied by that at all, but this is racing, boys and girls. It happened that's from some time, and Watson applied the pressure, and the other driver conceded towards the pressure, as we see the official results after 20 laps here in Montreal.
John Badeford takes a race win away from Amadema, 13.3 seconds between them. Chris Press was looking to close up to Amadema in the closing stages, but being 1.3 seconds back, wasn't able to make the move up for second place. Michael College rounds it out in P number 4 with Jeremy Rogers close with Christopher Ebbs in the final stages there for 5th and 6th. Connor Melia just in behind for 7th place. Alex Seviano Leto down in 8th place, with Michael Woods and Michael Carpenter rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, James Watson at 11th after we seen the mistake from Sebastian Kinder that drops to P12. Earl Setzer in P13, Alexander Fuller 14, David Bradley 15th, Casper David Auerberg Nielsen is going to be 16, Robert Lapointe is going to be 17, Ronnie Moreland, Shane Holstein, and Benny Feiga are the top 20 on the track.
And that just leaves Xavier Dowdell and Todd Hansen to round out the 22-car grid here for the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And what a thrilling battle it was, all the way up and down throughout the grid from start to finish. Everywhere you looked, you always had something going on the track, and that's what I like about these, larger grids. Is even though there's a bit of a bigger spread in the talent, you got drivers that are a lot slower mixed up with guys that are a lot faster. It does mean it can create some very entertaining moments, as we saw with the lap traffic.
It does, especially with some events like, for example, what happened to Melia right there. They went all close to one another in the chicane. Eventually, Melia kind of like overshoots the corner and lost 2 positions right there. You're trying to race as close as you can towards your competitor, but sometimes you're falling to the pressure. You just crumble it, and it just happens. That's how racing it is done. Sometimes you get the glory, sometimes you falter under the pressure.
And you take a look now at your official schedule here from Season 4, and how about the Milwaukee Mile coming up, of course, in just 1 week's time? That should be an entertaining race in of its own right, Lawrence? Of course, it is the last oval race on the season, and that could make it a rather interesting one. It's a very flat track. It's a very abrasive track, but I have a feeling it could be almost, if not more exciting than Gateway.
I think it's going to be more exciting, in my opinion, because it is a short mile, and I think we've seen in here that these short miles have been providing some great racing, and I can't wait to see what the Milwaukee Mile are going to provide for us. I do believe that we might see some very, very dramatic attrition between some drivers.
So with 2 races remaining, it is time for us to say farewell here for round number 10 here in Canada. My name is Nola Rampo with Lorenzo Bonner beside me in the commentary box. Tyler Maxson has been down behind the cameras for tonight's presentation. We swing back stateside for the remaining 2 races in the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. But for Canada, we say au revoir.